Welcome to Moving Beyond. I'm Robert Spencer. I'd like to take a few minutes today to talk with you about how you can get better at just about everything. Now, this idea came to me a few days ago when I heard a fellow tell me that he couldn't play the guitar at all because he had no musical talent. And he knew this because years ago he took a few lessons and just didn't get it. So it must be that he just has no talent. Now, I'm not so sure about that, and I know that theoretically there are a couple of different arguments on this. There are some people that say that talent is everything, and without talent you're not going to learn much at all. There are other people that go to such extremes as to say there's no such thing as talent, there is only learning, and that if you learn, you can get anywhere you want in a given field, in an art or a sport. Myself, I seem to think both of those have merit to them. So talent, I would say, can put a maximum limit, a ceiling on how much excellence you can attain. Learning, though, has to take place even if you're talented. So go ahead and learn, and you can get better from where you are now towards some idea about how you can improve. So how do people do that? How do they get this learning done? Well, one thing that seems to be very common with a lot of folks is role model. That you have a role model that provides you an image of what's possible. It shows you what you're trying to do. It gives you a goal. It orients your brain to what you can possibly achieve eventually. And that can be really motivating and help with the energy that you need to undergo all of the learning that it takes to improve what you're doing. Secondly, there's an old joke. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. And sometimes people will say practice makes perfect, but it actually does not. Only perfect practice makes perfect. Daniel Coyle wrote a book called The Talent Code, and he calls it deep practice. He talks about, or illustrates his point in the book with a young girl who's learning a musical instrument, and he's watching her practice. And she is playing her instrument. She's paying very close attention to what she does and how it turns out. And when she gets to a rough passage that isn't the way that she wants it, she stops and she goes back. She slows it down. She breaks it down into elements that she can handle. She builds it, just builds it gradually. And then she comes back and adds a little demand. She may play a few more notes, a little louder, or probably she's going to add speed to it until she gets back to the tempo of the song. So that's very important, deep practice, where you pay attention so that you perceive where it is that you're no longer doing what you intended to do. And then you go back and you work on that. If you don't do that, likely what you're actually doing is practicing your mistakes. And believe me, if you keep practicing your mistakes, you'll get really good at them. So, deep practice. Now, another thing, if you're going to do deep practice, don't beat yourself up. Because these errors or these inaccuracies that you find where you're no longer doing what you intend, that's the mother lode of learning. That's the place where you unlock that, you will make the most progress. So you have to be kind to yourself and not beat yourself to death just because you're still making mistakes. All right. Another thing that I really like, a thought on this subject, has to do with a legend from ancient Greece about a legendary fellow named Milo of Croton. Now, Milo is a legend. Hercules, he was a myth. There wasn't any such person. But Milo was a real person. I think, though, his exploits have been greatly exaggerated. But you never know. The records show that in the ancient Greek Olympics, Milo was the wrestling champion 6, maybe 7 times. That's quite a feat. But there is a part of his legend that I really like that's very illustrative. It is, how did he get this strong? In part, the story goes that a cow in his family or the village had a little calf. It was a bull calf. And on the first day of this calf's life, Milo went out and he picked it up and he carried it around, put it down. The second day of the calf's life, he comes back out, picks it up, carries it around, puts it down. The third day, comes and picks it up, and he does this continuously in a dedicated fashion. And by the time that calf was grown, Milo was strong enough to lift a bull. So there's great teaching in that. Start with something that you can do. and then add increments of difficulty to it, only in very small amounts. And if your brain doesn't actually perceive that the task has gotten much harder, it'll be easy for you to do. So how much weight does a calf gain overnight? Milo's system probably didn't even recognize that the calf was getting appreciably heavier from one day to the next. And therefore he was able to maintain his form, and his nervous system didn't go into any kind of panic. He didn't add difficulty and strain to his movements. And he got very, very strong from doing that. We can do that too. The trick is start easy, start small, and gain only a small amount each time. This takes a lot of patience. It may take a lot of time, but you'll get there. Now, one last thought on this business about improving. It can be really beneficial to have a teacher or a coach. Now, not all teachers or coaches are designed to teach any particular student. You need to be selective. Teach someone that knows what it is you're trying to do, what your desire is, and whose method of teaching actually will mesh with your personality and your learning style so that you will stick with it. If there's a disconnect in method, it's not going to work. And it doesn't mean, though, that the teacher is going to give you stuff that's always easy or is always going to praise you. That may not be part of it. It may not be what you need. But you can find someone. Now, these days, you can find a lot of teaching online. Now, when I injured my leg and had to give up skiing, I decided I wanted to finally quit being a hack of a guitar player and learn something about it. And I actually found that on YouTube there are a couple of teachers that are much better for me personally than a live teacher. And part of it is because on my computer I can press pause and I can just wait and I can try what they did. And I can actually have them go back and repeat something as many times as I want. That works really well for me. Now, that being said, not everybody on YouTube knows what the heck they're doing. So again, you have to be selective. Find somebody who knows what they're talking about and teaches in a way that you can relate to. So there's so much more that we can do. The treasure of learning, what an incredible capacity that we have for that. And we might as well use it. And there are ways we can set things up so that we're able to learn more effectively as we go. So thanks for watching. See you in Carnegie Hall.